Hello everyone, and welcome to another in my video tutorial series in which I'm going over concepts for IT generalists, IT technicians, and those of us in the IT world, as well as preparing you for your CompTIA A+ certification exam. Not only the concepts, but also being able to take skills and use those in your everyday world. Well, in this lesson we're going to talk about Windows operating systems, or specifically Windows operating systems, but I want to do a general introduction over operating systems as a whole. And operating systems provide us that interface between us as a user and the applications and hardware devices that we use in our everyday lives. Not only as an A+ certified individual, but IT technicians around the world should learn to use several tools and utilities that are very useful to us as technicians to view and manage our storage devices, examine the health of our overall systems and how they're functioning, as well as to troubleshoot simple problems with that hardware and applications that our operating system provides us that interface for. You should also learn how our operating system connects to a network and access resources on a network, as well as how to create and manage user accounts on the operating systems of your choice. Because we do have a lot of choices. When it comes to the flavor that you prefer, that's up to you. You might be an open source software individual who likes the different flavors of Linux, and you can see there are a lot of them, whether you're using Fedora, Linux Mint, if you're using Ubuntu, Red Hat, OpenSUSE, whatever the case may be, there are a lot to use. As I said, this is open source software, so individuals can make changes to this. Then we have our closed source or proprietary software, such as the Mac operating systems, or Mac OS, or Mac OS X, whatever the case you want to be. You can see there's been a history of these operating systems. You can see they had a lot of different names after cats. You can see that we've changed it a little bit. We're up to El Capitan as our most recent version until the next one comes out. But you can see the history here. There are a lot of different versions, and that's the case with all operating systems. The ones we're mainly going to focus on in this lesson is what the world really has said this is the gold standard, because the other operating systems just have a fraction of the market in daily IT use. And that's Microsoft's operating system known as Windows. And you can see starting way back with the original Windows here in the top, and I've shown you most of the flavors of Windows. Do we need to know all these for the A+ certification? Of course not. Do we need to remember anything about Windows NT or the world-changing Windows 95 that you are always going to find people that are for or against that? And that was when the Earth was cooling, so we're still talking about that. Windows XP, which is still around. No, we don't need to know about any of those. If you look at the bottom row, we are still required on the A+ certification for this current version to know about Windows Vista through Windows 8.1. Now you might say, there's a difference? Yes, there is a difference between Windows 8 and Windows 8.1. Have all the operating systems been flawless and well accepted? No. Windows Vista, definite no. Lots of people complain about that because they weren't used to the user access interface to constantly say, are you sure you want to do this? And you were always being prompted. User access control is big, starting with Windows Vista. With Windows 8, not well adopted. Microsoft realized this and then came out with the new flavor, Windows 8.1. When Windows 8 was launched, the world was not really ready for it. Not everyone had a touch device, and unfortunately Windows didn't anticipate the fallout from this and just said, we're going to launch this. This is going to be the complete platform regardless of what the device is, and that did not sit well with consumers. Not everyone had a tablet, not everyone had a touchscreen, and that's how Windows 8 was developed, was to use a touchscreen. And then there were some other things we didn't like hey, where did the start menu go? We've been so used to for so many years. So with Windows 8.1, we've given a little bit of what we as consumers demanded. And then Windows 10, which is the most current version, This is not on the 900 series of the A+ certification, but this is becoming the standard. There are still, however, many instances of Windows XP out there that you may have to support, but for current certification standards, we are not worried about Windows XP and Windows 10, but we are worried about Vista through 8.1, and you will see a lot of similarities between Windows Vista and Windows 7. But in general, we use our Windows interface to interface with our different users, the files and folders on our system, the various applications, as well as communication with our hardware. There are lots of Windows tools that we can use to explore and examine our system, as well as to maintain its overall health. We can also make various network connections using our Windows operating system. We can manage all of our local user accounts and Microsoft accounts, because with the introduction of Windows 8, Microsoft says, hey, how about you have a Microsoft account, and then that way whenever you log into a machine using your Microsoft account, you have access. It's like you are in a network, and you will have everything that you had if you were at home using your machine that you had your Windows 8 on. Just like with Windows 10, but we'll try not to steer too much towards Windows 10 in this lesson. As an example, if I have my favorites here in Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge or Chrome, and then I go to another machine, I log in and they have the same browsers, I see my favorites that I had if I were sitting at home. Just an example of those cases. And then of course we can get into the whole cloud storage with our Microsoft account. If we save files with our cloud storage that Microsoft provides us, and then I want to go somewhere else, I log into my machine with my Microsoft account, and my cloud storage files, I have access to those anywhere in the world. So if you've seen that OneDrive icon in your File Explorer window and you've never used it, try it out. It's definitely worth using, especially if you're traveling. Lots of people, if you're traveling and you want to upload your files, like from pictures that you've taken during a vacation, upload those to your cloud, free the space up on your camera, even though, as we know, in the 21st century, storage is cheap and we have a lot of it, so we don't really worry about that much anymore. But if you want, as a backup, use your OneDrive that Windows provides you, and it's a great addition that we've had over the last few versions of Windows. As a quick recap, here are the 4 main functions of our operating system. They're to provide us a user interface much better than using the command line interface, much quicker, much easier, much more friendly to us as the general users. We can manage our files with our operating systems. We can manage our hardware in many different fashions. And we can manage the applications that reside on our computer, whether it's keeping updates, maintenance, applying patches. Lots we can do with our operating system that was much more unfriendly when we were doing this all with the command line. Let's briefly talk about Windows 7. There are different editions, and that's the term you should use, is edition. You might hear the word flavors. A lot of us in IT use the word flavors when we talk about when an item has different versions or editions of something. But for Windows 7, we had several editions of this, such as the Windows Starter, which is a very lean version of the operating system that does not include the Windows Arrow theme. So it was very hard to find this. It was not one that was, you weren't seeking this out, but it was you might have seen this in underdeveloped countries, and it was pre-installed on netbooks when those started to come out, and trying to get those to take off. They were installed on those. Different ARM technologies included this Windows 7 Starter. We also had Windows 7 Home Basic, and this was also one that was in other, mostly in underdeveloped countries. So, but you might have come across this. Usually, when you had a Windows 7 machine, you were going to look at these top 4 machines. That's what would come standard when you went and purchased one. That was Windows 7 Home Premium, and this was really, as it states, towards that home version market. Those people that just had to have a computer in their house, and that was the one that we were really selling on the mass market. and it came with a feature such as Windows Media Center that you could use for your different music and movie needs. So that was a good selling point. But you definitely saw the Windows Arrow theme in this version. Windows 7 Professional, the next step up. This was more towards us enthusiasts as well as the academia markets. We had the ability to participate in Windows Server domains so that you could not have just standalone machines with standalone accounts. You could put this into your networked environment. The next one we had up was the Windows 7 Enterprise. This allowed us to have volume licensing for this. So this was another feature that was included in that. And then Windows 7 Ultimate contains pretty much the same features as Windows 7 Enterprise, but unlike the Enterprise, you could, as an individual, you could buy a Windows 7 Ultimate license for home use. So that's pretty much all the additions of Windows 7 that you would need to know. You also need to know about the Windows 8 additions. Now, Windows 8.1 is a free update to Windows 8. As I mentioned earlier, it did not have a very good acceptance in the user market when Windows 8 came out. So when they listened to us, they made some changes, and then released Windows 8.1 that definitely was a little bit more accepted, even though the bridge had kind of been burned with the Windows 8 introduction. But we have different editions of this one as well. You might hear Windows 8 Core being used. Sometimes you just refer to Windows 8, but some enthusiasts call this the Windows 8 Core. This is pretty much a basic edition of this, and it contains features aimed at those home market groups for having this inside their home, with whether you had a tablet or a laptop, whatever the case may be, and you did this upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 8. This is pretty much what you would fall into but it depends a lot on upgrades, and we're not going to get into upgrades in this lesson as to what you could upgrade to. On the bottom end of this, you see the Windows RT. This too was pre-installed on those ARM architecture devices such as tablets, and it was touch optimized for those type of devices, such as a handheld scanner or whatever the case may be. That's what we would see that installed on, was the RT. Even when the Windows Surface came out, that was the version you would find on most of those, was the Windows RT edition of the operating system. Now we also had two other editions, Windows 8 Pro and Windows 8 Enterprise. Windows Pro was very similar. You could compare that to the Windows 7 Pro and the Windows 7 Ultimate. Now Windows 8 Enterprise was pretty similar to Windows 8 Pro, except you could not install the add-on for the Windows Media Center. There were some additional features to assist with individuals that were using this in a network enterprise. So it was Pro or Enterprise could be used in your business networks very easily. And you could join those on the domains. And unlike Windows 7 and Vista, which I stated are very similar, you did not see with Windows 8, there was no Starter Edition, there was no Home Basic Edition, no Ultimate Edition, or Home Premium Edition. So you would definitely need to know the editions when it comes to your A+ certification. Now, just so I don't leave it out of the conversation, I do want to show you the similarities with Windows Vista and Windows 7. As you can see, this list looks very similar, other than the Windows Vista Business. Now, Windows Vista Business was an upgrade from the Home Premium, but not the full support of Windows Vista Enterprise. It did take out things such as like parental controls and the standard theme, but this did allow you to be part of a domain and have encrypted file systems, things like that, as well as doing system image backup and recovery features that you could not do with the lower versions of this. Windows XP had a professional edition, and that's kind of where they got the idea for the business edition, so that's where you could kind of see those the similarities in those. But rather than have a version called Windows Vista Professional, they did away with that, and that's why we will take that one off this list, because that was just a silly thing Microsoft did to just, rather than call it professional, let's just call it business, so that those in the mass business market will want to buy this as a change. Well, when it came to, and I said I won't go into this a lot, when it came to the Windows 7 introduction, that was a free upgrade for everyone if you had Windows Vista. Because it was such a bad fallout with the consumer market, it was a free upgrade. And depending on what type you had, and you could compare these two lists, you could upgrade to the equivalency of Windows Vista when you upgraded to Windows 7 for free. Then we saw this again with Windows 10. As it said, if you had any of these previous versions of Windows 8 or Windows 7, it's a free upgrade, and we had that for a little over a year. But Microsoft does try to help us out as consumers once in a while, and that's just an example of the Windows Vista fallout brought us into the Windows 7 introduction and made customers happy again. That is my introduction to the different operating systems, very general overview of those ones that you need to know. We'll do other videos in which we'll go more into the actual features and tools, so I will do another one to follow up with this one to where we'll take a look at the interfaces of our Windows operating systems. Thank you for following along, and I hope you will continue to enjoy the other videos that I've put out, as well as ones that will come out in the future. Thank you guys for following along, and I appreciate it. Good luck on your continued studies for your A+ certification.